Good morning, good morning, good morning, and thank you for joining me on another episode of the Roundtable Talk Show. I am your host, Sharifa Hardy, and like always, I have a very special show for you today. I'm going to introduce our guests. They're going to tell you a little bit about themselves, and then we have no idea where the conversation is going to go. But what I do know is that you will learn from this experience. You'll take notes, you'll laugh, you may even cry. It depends on the show, but I know we are going to have a good time. So right before I introduce the guest, I'm going to ask you to do what I always ask you to do, and that is to go out and be an evangelist and be an activist for the Roundtable Talk Show. Go wake somebody up. Whoever is sleeping the most peacefully, I want you to wake them up. I want you to call grandma. I want you to call grandpa. I want you to sit your kids down who want to be entrepreneurs and let them know the Roundtable Talk Show is live, because friends don't let friends miss out on the Roundtable Talk Show, especially not now. With us streaming live on about 6 different pages, we'll be live on the organization Maven. We're live on Ask Sharifa. We're live on Face to Face Talk Show. We're live on the Roundtable Talk Show. We're live on Chandra Gore Consulting. We are live thanks to your support, which we greatly appreciate it. But again, share the show. I want to go ahead and introduce my first guest. You see her here every Monday. I've had to wrestle back my microphone because she got a taste of hosting, and now she's the co-host. I have to add her name to the billing, but welcome Allison Allman, the organization Maven. Good morning, Allison. How are you?
Good morning, Sharifa. I'm excited. It's my favorite day again. It's Monday.
I'm glad to have you here every Monday. Oh, special show for you today. I'm live. I didn't even follow my own instructions. Um,
To meet your phone.
It's Monday. Forgive me. Forgive me. I got to share it everywhere and start my watch party to get the people tuning in. If you have questions or if you have comments, please feel free to ask. Allison, what brings you here every Monday?
I really like connecting with 4 to 5 different people on Monday. It's like my own private networking group. I don't have to go very far. And I told you about maybe a year or two ago that I was going to attach myself to your hip. And this is the best way of doing it with social distancing.
Yes, I know. Because if it was any closer, if you were any closer, I wouldn't even know what to do, Allison. But people don't understand partnerships. They don't understand that you can't do everything by yourself. One of the things I love about you is that if I haven't marketed the show on Mondays, you have created your own images. You created your own flyers. You created your own posts to remind people that you are going to be on the Roundtable Talk Show. And that's what branding is about. People recognizing your name, people recognizing your brand. One of the other things that you talk about is your particular outfit. You had a consultation in regards to what works for you, and this is a part of your brand. Would you tell us a little bit about that, please?
Sure. Well, it's a mixture of things. I really wanted 2020 to be different. That has happened. 2020 has been different on every level for every person. And I met with an image stylist because I knew with me attending events and being in the media, I wanted every time someone saw me in a picture or in a media event that I was a professional and to take me seriously. So first, like January 3rd, I met with an image consultant. And so she told me the best colors to wear. And honestly, I went to my closet and just threw out everything that wasn't the best colors that she told me to wear. And then in April, when the pandemic was crazy, when most of us were stuck at home, I went to a branding summit that was online and free, and they just talked about consistency and like the colors on your business card should match your website and your social media, and looking the same and being consistent everywhere. So I kind of just took everything that I was told in January to the next level by wearing pretty much this dress every single time I came onto a Zoom, so that every time someone saw me at any kind of Zoom interview or Zoom networking or your show through Zoom, that they would go, oh, there's Allison. She wears the same necklace. She wears the same dress. I have the same haircut. I've done a couple quarantine haircuts myself. But either way, I look the same every time, all the time. So then people can recognize me and go, hey, I follow her on Instagram. There she is on this interview or on this show. So it makes it relatable so people can recognize me, which I hope they are doing. Hi, everyone.
Yes, they are, because people tune in more on Mondays than they do any other day of the week. And I think that's because, like I said, it's joint marketing. I put out the marketing, you put out the marketing, and plus you have an audience that tunes in to see you every week. So I definitely appreciate that. Now, you are the organization maven. What's going on with the organization maven? Are you organizing garages now, making man caves, she sheds? Every time I talk to you, it's something new.
So yesterday I went and prepped a garage because Tuesday they're converting half of their garage into a gym. I'm so excited. I
Oh,
got the
wow.
4 pictures and they're gonna there's a lot of demo to be done and fix some holes on the wall, and she's adding a bench. So there's a lot of moving parts happening, but I was at least able to prep the garage and get the before pictures, and then she's having a construction company come in and add the mirrors and add the bench and add some storage to the ceiling area. And I'm going to come over on probably Tuesday morning and meet the contractor so we can start a partnership, because if he does a good job and my client likes him, then more than likely I'll start introducing him to my other clients that have told me, I want to do a home gym, but I don't know what contractor to contact, or I don't know what handyman to contact. And so I'll be building that, and so we can be like a duo and do a whole bunch of home gyms.
Okay, so if he's creating the home gym, what is he providing the actual equipment, or what is the contractor doing?
From what I understand, he's going to, my client is providing the safe racks, which are the racks being screwed into the ceiling, and the contracting crew is going to install it. And then they're adding some kind of bench along the wall, and they're relocating some pipes on the wall too. So, and then after everything gets like installed, then I'm going to come back and we're going to put things like holiday decor on the ceiling, and mostly holiday decor and luggage, because that's where everything is kind of stacked in a corner right now. So I'm just excited to have something to organize and have it be like a really great garage. I've been working at this garage since December, and every couple months I go back. So this is like really exciting for me that it's going to have some real, or it's going to have some products that will keep it organized, and then I can just move on into the inside and not have to worry about the garage anymore.
Allison, one of the most often questions that I'm asked is, how do I come up with new ideas? How do I come up with new ideas? If someone has one product, they often find it very difficult to market that product and spin that product in a way that it's new, it's exciting, it's interesting each time, even though it's the same product. Each and every week, you give us something new. Now you're doing home gyms. How do you, as a business owner, how do you recreate yourself so easily?
I think a lot of it is experience, and there's a trend in general on how things work. Like in January, what does everyone do in January? They have New Year's resolutions. So everyone wants to get out of debt, lose weight, so what goes on sale? All the Nutrisystem stuff and scales and that kind of stuff. So usually in January, people also want to get organized. So I kind of follow that wave and spin my skills and offer different services. And then in the spring, there's different things. And then in the summer, there's different things. And then the winter, holiday season, I organize holiday decorations and put them up and everything. So for me, I'm kind of following like the life cycle that happens with the seasons. So I know for me, I'm always taking advantage of them and being able to offer my skills a different way. Since the pandemic and the virus happened, like I said, there's no rules to 2020, and nothing got followed. And things we should have done in the spring, we didn't. We were all home watching Netflix and Tiger King, whatever else we were watching. And so I had to go to Pinterest for most of my ideas to see what people are doing. Pinterest actually sends out a business email for business owners. You have to have a business Pinterest account to get the email, but they will tell you what is happening. So I got an email, I want to say in June or July, saying that like people are looking at Halloween costumes, especially for dogs, and so they were telling dog social media people to get their campaign ready for selling dog costumes or dog accessories. I don't have a dog, but I sure sent a couple text messages to people that I know that have dog brands on TikTok and Pinterest and so forth. And I said, hey, did you see that Pinterest email about, getting your Halloween business going? And they're like, no, I didn't. I'm like, go read it. So I think Pinterest plays a big part in that whole life cycle of this happens in January and this happens in the spring and this happens in the fall. And it was really great that Pinterest business email came out.
I like it. We always learn something new from you. I might have to go sign up for that. So I'll come back to you, Allison. I want to go ahead and introduce our next guest. And part of what he does is also talk about life cycles, what's coming up, what the future holds, and not in a psychic way, but in industries, revolutions. Mr. Jimmy Chebat of Zyzo Technologies. Good morning, Jimmy. How are you?
Morning, Sharif. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm excited to have you here. We were listening to Allison, and Allison was talking about basically trends follow a certain pattern. Now, you're someone who specializes in a fully integrated system that's leading the way to the fourth industrial revolution. So I want to hear a little bit about that, Jimmy.
Sure. And it's funny you pronounce it Zyzo. I have to make it somewhat standardized. I call it Zizzo. It's actually
Zizzo.
Zoom in, zoom out, and it's based on the ability to lead an organization, being able to see things globally from a high level, but also being able to drill down granularly into the weeds and being able to see the data that drives the business objectives. And what we're doing is we started our platform about 10 years ago on something we had called the E-Whiteboard, which was a data analytics software that helped us analyze the workforce and be able to get information about our workforce that a lot of the CRM softwares and different softwares like your phone systems that don't give you directly. So you have to kind of dig through the data pool and you kind of start to drown in some of the data. So we kind of aggregated the data simply and focused it on the KPIs that really matter to the managers who are managing the individual agents. We are focused primarily in the call center space, but this thing scales across industry. And what we're doing when we talk about revolutionizing kind of the workforce is we're adding gamification to those KPIs. The new generational workforce, we're not just talking about millennials anymore. I know we've been talking about them for years, but now it's Gen Z. And, this new workforce is motivated differently. They think differently. They expect different things from their organization. And what we're doing is we're applying gaming metrics and gaming features into the workforce. So now not only are you able to have transparency into the data and being able to see kind of the KPIs, the expectations of each individual, they also see what's expected of them and where they are in relation to those expectations and also where they are in relation to their peers. But now we're adding gaming metrics. So we have badges, we have experience levels, we have contests, leaderboards. We're also focusing on career road mapping. So we're measuring and tracking, reporting, and recognizing career statistics as well. And so now, just like you do in video games, where you're getting a badges, where you hit a certain milestone, where you earn a certain rank, we're doing that at work. We're applying that to the workplace. And that's going to keep users engaged. That's one of the areas that businesses are looking to enhance is how do I keep my employees engaged and motivated at work? And especially this new generational workforce that requires different standards than some of the older generations. Us older generations, we just are happy to have a job and, we want to go to work and we work so that way we can live and pay our bills and support our families. This new generation wants work to be part of their life and have meaning in it. So with gaming, it's a different strategy on keeping them engaged and keeping them motivated, rewarded, and recognized.
Wow, Jimmy, I'm impressed. I like that. That sounds kind of fun. Like, where can I go find a job that has this in place? I might just go apply.
Well, we with Zizzo, we are looking to launch. We're launching next month in our beta version, and then we'll be going to full product launch in the first quarter of 2021. So hopefully, by the end of the year 2021, it'll be everywhere, and everyone will be having Zizzo. And that's part of our hopes, is that once you work in an environment like this, we call them brand ambassadors, where people become accustomed to working in an environment where they're constantly being rewarded and recognized. And so if they have to change jobs, they're going to look for another place that has that same application. So hopefully it becomes ubiquitous, and every organization is going to have it in their work management software.
I hope it will, hope and pray it will as well, because one of the conversations we tend to have on this show is the difference in the generations. Something like what you were saying is our generations, and I'll date myself, I'm 44. We weren't the group that got the gold watch or the 40 years retirement. We're the group that kind of, like you said, was happy to have a job. But these new generations, they want to be a part of something. And usually we discuss that as far as the social aspect. They want to heal the world and help the world and hug a tree. And so they're looking for companies that mean something more than just a paycheck, especially when a lot of these companies may not even offer health benefits, which was standard when we were growing up. And now it's just you have a paycheck and there's nothing holding you on to the company.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And I'm the same age as you. So I grew up in that same culture, and this younger generation, like you said, the social aspect of it, they do want to be part of an organization, but they also want to be recognized internally, and they want to be patted on the back for everything that they do, and not just by their management, but also by their peers. And we do have a social engagement component to it, where the peers can also recognize one another, offer each other peer points for being able to help them accomplish their goals. And so, I'm excited to talk about anything that has to do with the generational workforces, because I've been studying them, and they're all different. So, not one generation is better than the other, but
I have a question.
Sure.
Does this replace the monthly team meeting where we have to go into the conference room and eat cake with people we don't really like? Because I never liked doing that, where it was team building and you go into the conference room and you hear the monthly stats and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, can I just skip it and stay at my desk and work? And they're like, no, you got to be a team player and come eat some gross cake. So if this replaces that and still does team building, I know that people like me would like that.
I don't know about replacing it. This is going to be real time, so the statistics are constantly being updated. So, one of the things that there's a lag when you're doing it once a month, but when you have the data in front of you on a daily basis and it's updating in real time, there is no question about where you stand, where the metrics are. However, I don't, like in everything, I don't feel that technology should replace the actual human element. I think you should still work with your team. Part of the purpose of the application is to free the managers from having to pull these reports, from having to aggregate the data, from having to analyze the data, that the data is right there. And then it's, one of the terms I use is micromanagement without the micromanaging. That people have the access, they know what's expected of them, and they know where they are relative to those expectations. So the managers now have more time to actually go work with their team and work with the individuals and help them train them and coach them. So I never look to say, although we're a technology company, I don't think technology should replace the human element. I still think that you need to be engaged with your team on a regular basis.
Yes, you still have to have the engagement. And so with the social aspect, I wasn't implying that it wouldn't work. I was saying this makes it more exciting because companies are always looking for ways to retain employees. I remember that whole .com era, like they were like, you can wear rollerblades at work. You can bring your dog to work. They gave us free juice, and then they laid us off. So I understand that's what happened. I was laid off 8 times after we moved from one company. We were working in a garage in Gardena, and we got all excited, moved to El Segundo, high-rise building, $1,000 chairs, expensive cubicles, free juice. Months later, no job. So you have to walk that fine line between giving all these incentives and perks. But I like that. I think I'd be bored. I mean, I probably wouldn't even do my work. You know what I mean? Like, I'd be excited about these games. I want to talk about that, but I want to come back to you, Jimmy. I want to introduce our next guest, and I'm going to introduce them together. They're both a part of the same company. Usually we don't do that, but I love making exceptions. We have Mr. Thomas Drew and Corey Lewis of One in One Life, which is a modern digital lifestyle and wellness platform. Mr. Corey Lewis is the founder, and Thomas is here to assist him with marketing. Corey, Thomas, good morning. How are you?
We're actually co-founders of the company.
Co-founders?
Yeah.
I apologize. I took my notes from your bio.
No, it's all
okay.
good. It's all good. Just want, I don't want to downplay anybody's, position in that could get messy. So, but thank you for having us. It's a pleasure to be here, and definitely excited to, be here. I know T. Drew Thomas as well, but I'm sure he'll mention, you can just call him T. Drew. So thank you for having us, and excited to, jump into these conversations with everybody on here.
Well, you seem excited. You seem very excited.
This is awesome. It's I think we're Corey and I are obviously on the younger end of the spectrum. Where Corey actually is getting ready to have his 30th birthday next week.
Go Corey! Congratulations!
Pretty excited. And I'm 28. I'll turn 29 in February. So stuff like this is pretty cool. It's a really cool conversation, because just listening to what you guys were talking about, especially you, Jimmy, when you're talking about the differences in age and kind of how we see and work for companies and lead companies and stuff like that. You guys hit it right on the money. And stuff like this is cool because we're able to learn from each other. I think, I could launch and run 10 successful companies, but at the end of the day, I'm always trying to learn and always want to put myself in a position where I feel like I know nothing, so I can continue to learn more. So stuff like this is really good. It's a cool platform.
Before we go into your platform, you mentioned Jimmy. What were your thoughts on that? Do you think it was something that would engage employees, retain employees?
Well, and I know Corey can speak on this too, just because we, with who we're involved with and our mentors and stuff. It's technology. Anything that has to do with technology, whether it's artificial intelligence, whether it's machine learning, whether it's digital computing, whatever it is, that's where everything is going to go. And to Jimmy's point, that it'll never be something, or we'll never be in a situation where we can really be able to replace the human component, because it includes emotion, it includes empathy, and all those other things that you can't really create with machinery. But as far as systems, and as far as figuring out ways to get the best out of your business that's attached to a bottom line, I think with what Jimmy's doing and with what so many other companies are doing, that's really the future. So I think it's very, very interesting, and anything that you can do as far as a system that is able to positively impact the bottom line of your business, being able to automate that, being able to have, certain levels and toggles and tools where you can say, okay, if I do this, then this will probably happen. If I crank this will happen. It really streamlines things. A friend of mine has a business that is actually going to be selling product in one of these first grocery stores that Amazon's doing without checkout lines and without, I think it's like the first no-touch grocery store, like something along those lines. So even our daily experiences, when you think about shopping and groceries and checkouts and those things are being changed. So it's kind of in the same vein. I think it's pretty interesting.
Yes, Corey?
Yeah, I totally agree with T. Drew on what he had to say about Jimmy and really trying to use technology to automate a lot of things in the workspace. I know we have our CTO who, he works with a lot of our different vendors and the people we work with, and he makes sure that, stuff is running smoothly. They're definitely, but at the same time, T. Drew and I both appreciate the human connection of the workspace and being able to connect with our, employees and the people who work for us. We also try to empower people to make decisions and do all that good stuff. And yeah, so I love what Jimmy's created and has, and I think there's a huge opportunity there for that. And again, it's awesome to hear that although he has a technology that he it's not necessarily, it doesn't mean he doesn't believe in the human connection side of the workspace and creating that. So the fact that he's aware of both sides and that both are important, while creating a solution to help businesses run better, is pretty awesome. And, I'm excited to see where that goes.
Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate that feedback.
Yes. Let's talk about One and One Life. What was the inspiration? How did that get started?
Yeah, I mean, it's actually it's a really funny story.
Better be funny, Thomas.
Well, it's funny, but it's serious. But it's funny, like how it all came to be. So the reason why it's funny is because the original name of the company was so terrible. That's how funny it is. But the name of itself was the impetus between kind of what we do now and kind of what it stands for. So back when we started to ideate on it, which was in 2017, we relaunched the platform in 2019, but the name of the company in 2017 was Baby Fitness, which stood for Be a Better You. But it was yeah, but when we were looking at branding and marketing, like all these other things, like I started thinking about baby fat and like all these other things that just didn't really necessarily align with what we were trying to do. But the core of what that means and what it is, Be a Better You, essentially 3 years later, when you look at our platform right now, and the core of it is really just providing people, our mission statement is to give people a platform through wellness where they can connect through, community, curation, and content. Because it's really a disconnect there. I feel like wellness for men and women, especially men, a lot of times isn't accessible as far as information, knowing what type of products to use or try, and really having a community around it. And so that's what we really aim to do with our content, with our product curation. When you look at our product reviews and our third-party affiliate marketplace that we're getting ready to launch, and then with our own products as well. Our high-level athleisure, we're releasing two all-natural supplements in a week, which is pretty cool. And then on our website, we have 500 pieces of, or over 500 pieces of original content that I think span the length of like 7 or 8 full-length novels now. And we look at wellness from inside out, and each silo or category of wellness on our site, it goes into 7 dimensions of wellness, which we look at as being emotional wellness, physical wellness, social wellness, environmental wellness, intellectual wellness, so on and so forth. So I won't bore you by saying all the dimensions of wellness, but that's kind of how we break it down. So that's where we started. That was the thought, and that, kind of brought us to where we are. But I think even when I talk to younger entrepreneurs, and I know this is like something that Corey and I really, really latch onto just as leaders together, is the fact that your core of what you do will be what really sets the tone for your business and who you are 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 12 years, because it gets hard. You fail. A lot of bad stuff happens. You have to adapt, but the core of what your business is and your vision and the core of what you're trying to do for people is what will allow you to continue to progress.
I love that. Corey, your thoughts?
Yeah, it's definitely been a long ride so far. And obviously, there's tons of entrepreneurs out there on a longer ride than we've been, but just the ups and downs and that come with entrepreneurship. It's been good. I don't look at failure as failure being final. I look at failure as an experience, that you learn from, that you get better from, that you become a better entrepreneur, business owner, or, whatever your role may be in the business space. So, we've had tons of failure that we've dealt with, and we've had tons of success that we've dealt with. And I think they balance each other out. For the most successful people in the world, I think they all can tell you that they failed a lot more than they succeeded. But obviously, it was all worth it at that point in time when they succeeded. So it's been an amazing ride, amazing journey. You know, and one of the biggest things I've been, you know, just kind of running with is that as an entrepreneur, you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And for so many reasons, because there's going to be a lot of times you're going to be in an uncomfortable situation or uncomfortable point in time when running a business, because stuff happens, you know, and you can't predict everything, you know, but if you have the right team, you have the right people around you, the right support system, the right co-founder in my situation, you know, a lot of times you can get through it, and you can, you know, you can rise to the top and rise to the occasion. So, yeah, I'm excited about continuing to build the One-on-One Life platform, our wellness platform, and continue to connect with people in the wellness space, and provide this platform that will allow people to create a better version of themselves on a daily basis, through wellness and through all the different aspects of wellness.
Absolutely. Now, I have some more thoughts and some more comments, but I want to go ahead and introduce our next guest, who has been waiting so patiently to share her story, Miss Elva Green. She's an author. Her book, we're going to talk about her father's legacy. Her father, Eddie Green, the rise of an early 1900s Black entertainment pioneer. Good morning, Elva. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. I feel totally different from everyone I've heard from this morning. And that's good for me, because to start off, I am a baby boomer. And I don't tell people that all the time, you know. I don't like the Gen X and the millennials. I'm not really into the labels. But in writing the book about my father, who was actually born in 1891,
Wow.
and he died in 1950, I've learned that I have to focus on a certain, I have to mostly focus on baby boomers at the beginning, the older people who remember Eddie. And I've had to work very hard to get a following among younger people, such as, you know, the 28-year-old young man. And because they're not really interested in what was happening back in 1920 or 1930. But I'd like to remind people and keep certain aspects of life and certain people, I like to keep them fresh in everybody's mind. I didn't start my writing until 2014. I worked as a secretary most of my life. I worked government jobs usually. So I've always had medical benefits. I've never had to worry about, you know, not or being, like you said, in a high rise. The next thing I knew, I'm don't have a job. My jobs lasted 10 years, 15. But I did have some, I worked for Johnny Cochran, the lawyer, at one time. And I used to do a lot of temporary work. And I did that up until 2001, when I started raising my grandson. He stayed with me for a few years. And I'm trying to think how to do this.
We can go in a lot of different directions. I can tell one of the things, you're sharing your story, but it seems like there's also a lot of emotion in your story, because it obviously is your story. So let's step back for a minute. Let's talk about Eddie Green. Let's talk about your father, because you said you're a baby boomer, you know, Corey, Thomas, they may not know about Eddie Green. So let's talk about him.
Exactly.
His memory alive. Who was he?
That's where I was going. I'm sorry. My grandson is a big part of my book, of my story, the reason I wrote this. When he had some learning disabilities, and he would always think that he couldn't do certain things. And I thought, you know, my father, who was born in 1891, went from rags to riches. He grew up he was born in Baltimore, lived in a alley house. You know, he left home at 9. He became a magician, and he went through vaudeville. He went through burlesque. He appeared at the Apollo back in the day. He was on the radio. He began making his own movies. He climbed by himself. He used his own talents, his own determination, and his own money. And he became famous through the radio. Duffy's Tavern was a radio program from 41 to 1951, I think it was. And Eddie was there the whole time. And that's where he became famous. He was Eddie the waiter on Duffy's Tavern. He was also Stonewall, the lawyer, on the radio program Amos and Andy. He did a lot of radio. He also made 5 movies. He was the songwriter. He wrote "A Good Man is Hard to Find." He wrote that.
Yes, can we bring that back? Because a good man is hard to find. We need a young millennial to make a new song, because I need to listen to. I'm sorry, I'm having personal problems. This is my therapy. I didn't mean to interrupt. But we need to bring that back. Bring back some music. Bring back something, Elva.
Yes, and that's how I got hooked up with you, because Document Records has been working with me to republish Eddie's songs. When I started this book, I thought that he had only written 1 song, but it turns out he wrote maybe 30 other songs. I decided to write the book in 1996 because I was trying to give my grandson an idea of what a person can do despite any obstacles. You know, a Black man in 1891 who wound up being successful had to go through a lot. You know, Eddie he did blackface. But you know, he wound up as one of the first 2 Black men to be on the very first TV program with RCA NBC.
I want to talk about that a little bit, Elva. I'm going to come back to you, but I want to go over to Thomas real quick. When you listen to Elva and you hear the passion in her voice that a Black man has done so much, what do you feel? How does it make you feel?
I mean, if it wasn't for men like him, I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing. I mean, period. And I know Corey could say the same. You know, my mom grew up in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. You know, she went to Howard University. My grandpa, who I'm named after, was an Episcopal priest in the church and marched with Dr. King. So, you know, I'm very cognizant and aware of those stories. And, you know, Corey and I talk about it all the time. It really only takes you as a young minority, you know, man in this aspect, we'll use that as an example, to see someone like him get through those things and do those things. It lets you know that you can do it. And, you know, my only hope is that, you know, one of the things that Corey and I are able to do, and that other young minority, you know, specifically African-American men because we don't have a good history of being able to do these things together, unfortunately. My hope is that down the road, somebody can look at either Corey and I the same way that we're able to look at him and say, well, if he could do that, if they could do that, then I can do that. So that's essentially what it means to me.
Yes, thank you. Allison, we listened to Elva share her story, and one of the things that we've been talking about during this show, which kind of tends to be a theme, is age. We talked to Jimmy, his focus is on the younger generations. We talked to Elva, she's going after the baby boomers. When marketing, do you see a different type of outreach towards the different age groups?
Yeah, I mean, social media platforms cater to different age groups. Like, we have, I've noticed in my business.
So if you were Elva, didn't mean to cut you off, but if you were Elva,
for her to market on Nextdoor, or where were you going?
so what would you recommend? So you would recommend Nextdoor?
Well, can I think about that and get back to you? Well, I'm trying to think, like the baby boomers I know are all on Nextdoor. They aren't on Facebook or Twitter. There might be on Twitter, but or maybe Reddit. Maybe that's a different community. I know Reddit is really big in some of the baby boomer range.
You always know all the
Nextdoor is a social media platform. See, this is. Wow.
Well, yeah, they talk about coyotes and who has the best garage door recommendation, and they usually are over 50 or 60, and they they're only on Facebook to see their grandkids, but they're not socially active on Facebook, like in a group or following a page. They just are on Facebook so they can see their grandkids, because their children, who are in their 30s to 40s, are heavily on Facebook. So Nextdoor is a social media platform that is for your direct neighborhood, and it keeps them in contact. So I mean, I don't know if that's going to help Elva, but that's the demographic for it.
I've never heard of Nextdoor.
Yeah, Nextdoor.com. They actually released earlier today their treat map. So this is kind of going off topic, but if you wanted to know where everyone's doing trick-or-treating or decorated their house, they have a map that you could see the people in your neighborhood who's doing that. They just released it this morning for Halloween. Before the treat map, they had a help map, and that released in April for anyone that needed help with meals or help in general with having like someone to walk their dogs or help them with something. They had a help map. And so you could say that you were available to help people. It's both the app and a website, and you have to verify your address before you can get connected. So they'll either call a landline. If you don't have that, they'll send a postcard with a special code that you have to type in to make an account.
I like that.
Can I say this? When in the beginning, I was happy with the older generation, the old time radio people, but I found that I really would like to get Eddie's story out to more people, younger people, young men, young women, disabled people, just people in general. I don't necessarily want to stick with the older generation.
Have you thought about finding a younger artist that captures the essence of him and having that artist tell his story through his platform on social media? Because it's one of those things where it's like, if you find an artist that understands the impact and understands that without this trailblazer, they essentially wouldn't be where they are, which is tons of artists. They talk about it all the time. If you could find an artist like that, create some content around it, have that artist weave that into their narrative and hit their audience, then you could.
Wouldn't a podcast be a good similarity to being on the radio, and have someone do a podcast of, or maybe even read or a portion of it, just to kind of integrated into a podcast. That was my first thoughts, but I don't do a lot of podcasts, so I don't know too much about it.
Yeah, there's tons of ways that, and then I think just through content and just storytelling, I think it could be something cool, like whether it's they take a song and they do a remake and they credit, and
that's what I was going to say. That's what I thought you were going, Thomas.
Wow.
Because what happens is, this has happened to me on several occasions. I wish I could remember a song, but my kids are 23 and 26. And I remember as they were growing up, they would hear some song and they'd be like, oh, this is wonderful. This person just released it. I'm like, Earth, Wind and Fire released that. You know what I mean? Like in the 70s, you know what I mean? But they think it's new, and it's nothing new under the sun. And that's one of the best ways to do it is re-release it. And then you follow it up with a movie on who Eddie Green is. Jimmy, you're sitting back there enjoying the conversation. I see you smiling. I see you nodding. What are your thoughts? What are you thinking?
I couldn't agree more with T. Drew. I mean, I think you need to bridge that gap between the generations. And one way is to find an artist, as T. Drew pointed out, that they know, that they're familiar with, that can embrace the story of Eddie Green and use that story as part of his journey, or that relationship with his journey. And I think you're right, T. Drew. These trailblazers are the ones that made everything possible, especially for the young African American, whether it's in music, whether any sort of entertainment or any industry for that matter. So finding a young artist, I think, is a great idea. And, having that person, whether they're familiar with them, just making them familiar with that story and almost becoming a spokesperson for your book. I think you need that. I don't think you should take that on upon yourself, because it's hard to bridge that generational gap without somebody that's going to be able to, the younger generation can identify with. So I agree 100% with Thomas.
So, Jimmy, how do you make it so that you're giving the younger generation something to be excited about when they go to work? And maybe there are baby boomers who are at work who don't have the same interest. How do you make it even across the board as an employer?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's something that's been brought up, that when you're looking at a workforce, you can't automatically assume that the workforce is all of the same generation. When we did our research, by 2025, 75% of the workforce will be millennials and Gen Z. So, I mean, when you're looking at it from that market share, we obviously know we've got something that's going to target the demographic that this works for. Now, we're not going to forget about the other 25%. Some people, even like when we launched our avatar, so we have an avatar component within the platform where people could, build their own avatar in their own likeness, how they want to be represented to the platform. So anytime that there's an event, they reach a milestone, close a deal, there's recognition on the public display board and on people's computers. And the older generation don't like that. They really just want to stay low key. I don't need a pat on the back. I don't need my face on everybody's computer. So it is different. And for me, it's about, look, make it available. Don't make it mandatory. And, sometimes, just like I think social media, not every older generation embraced that. But over time, they found those pieces that they can embrace and utilize, just those components. They don't have to use all of it, just the components. And then over time, it starts to kind of mold and meld into one another. And then a generational gap starts to be bridged a little bit. So it evolves over time. It doesn't just happen, and you can't just pick one generation and focus on them. You have to give a little bit of everything to everyone, and then hopefully, it starts to take a life of its own.
Yes, that's what I was thinking about when I was speaking with Corey earlier, the whole life of its own aspect. One of the things I talk about on the show, and we can roughly see it here today, but typically I have 4 women and 1 man. I think if, we wouldn't have 2 guys from the same company, it would be basically the same thing. Or I have 5 women. I always say it's very hard to get the men to want to discuss and want to talk. It's just not like them to open up. So Corey, earlier you were talking about, or it may have been T. Drew, but the wellness for men, in our history, I've seen that most men don't want to learn about wellness or talk or I don't know, maybe I'm sexist, but that's one of the reasons why these platforms, I think, have not been out there.
No, yeah, 100%. That's one of the issues with wellness, and especially mental health. such a for some reason has a negative stigma. People, discuss it or ask for help in the space. So it's one of the things why we wanted to create our platform, to give people a space to come to, to have a community that they can really feel good about, to interact with other people who may be dealing with that, as well as digest content that we continuously work on and research and create for those people. Wellness is important. I mean, you're nothing without your well-being, and that's, and again, that could range from a variety of things, from financial wellness to social wellness to obviously mental wellness to physical wellness, environmental wellness, etc. Everyone has their different wellness aspects that are truly important to them, that make them an overall better person. I know personally for me, and T. Drew as well, that when I'm out of whack with my wellness, or the dimensions of wellness for me that are important, everything else seems to be out of whack. So I really try to focus on honing in on what works for me in my wellness journey, and then obviously sharing those experiences, and realizing that not everybody there's no one size fits all wellness journey. Just kind of helping people discover their wellness, and through content and through conversation, as you like to do here on this show. So that's what's important to us. And especially, like you said, on the male side, because we're so alpha, I don't think that we don't care about it. I just don't think we care to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And seem, I guess, quote unquote, soft or feminine to take care of yourself or whatever it may be. I don't really care I enjoy expressing my want to have self-care and all that good stuff. And I do.
What do you do for self-care, Corey? You go get a manicure, pedicure. What do you do? I
do the mani-pedi.
I can just kind of tell, though. I'm just serious.
No, I do the mani-pedi. I do the face mask. I do the, I definitely get the massages, and all that good stuff. So I've been trying to get a massage every week. I've been trying to just do more yoga, do more recovery stuff and things like that. But for me, my biggest self-care is my routine every morning, which is wake up. I'm a man of God, grew up in the church. So I read my Bible. Then I read my book, whatever book I'm reading. It's usually a self-help book, something on the entrepreneurial side. And then I have while I'm doing those two things, I like soak my feet. It gets and then I do like essential oils.
This is so cool. This is like so amazing. I would bet dollars to donuts when you woke up this morning, you never thought you'd be telling the world that you soak your feet as a part. Did you know that, T. Drew?
No, well, look, this is what, because he hasn't mentioned it yet, but probably the coolest part about Corey is that he used to be in the NFL. He was an offensive lineman. And so you guys can't see how big of a human Corey is, but he's a very big human. So like he looks like he's like a 6'5" version of like The Rock. So like, but what's cool about that is, and why it's so cool and why it's so great is that it doesn't matter how big, strong, whatever you are, like self-care is important. And like, I've learned from him how to take care of myself better. Like, and it's very, very cool when you're able to do that. But yeah, you guys don't realize how big he is because he's not.
I saw that when he first logged in. That's the first thing I said. Like, you are huge. Like my whole screen was just, I'm like, oh my God, he's huge. No, I get it. Jimmy, you listening to Corey. Corey's talking about self-care, pedicures, manicures, soaking his feet in the morning.
I was ready to pipe in there. So I'm the same way. I like to take care of myself. And they used to have a term, metrosexual. It's like, it's like, are you gay or are you not gay? It's no, I just like to take care of myself. And,
right.
The question is there a new term or is that stigma kind of gone? Like where now taking care of yourself isn't looked at as feminine or weak. And, because I'm with that. I'm all about all sorts of wellness, mental. So I'm vibing with you. you guys.
Yeah. I don't think there's a new term. I do remember the time of metrosexual. I think that now it's becoming more apparent that like self-care, like what's wrong with self-care? So I think it's more accepted that like, and I think from both the male side and obviously the female side, where they're like, yeah, I like my man to take care of themselves, like, you know, like all good. So what he makes sure that he lotions his body up and like, you know, make sure he's good, gets the mani-pedi, that he cares to look good for the world, like especially, you know, for us as business leaders and leaders in our different verticals, as we go do stuff, like we want to look good to the public people and the people we're going to be interacting with. And, you know, to me, my uncle is the same way. My uncle's a pioneer on Wall Street, John Uendal, and he gets like a 2-hour haircut. So like I've learned from him, like watched him like take care of himself, and like, you know, I was the same. And what I do realize, every room that he walks in, my uncle's like almost 70 years old, and they're like, wow, he looks great. Like, and that's what I always want for myself as well. When I walk in a room, I want people to comment on my appearance, because they know that I care about it. And I think that speaks volumes for, you know, for that, okay, he must care about everything that he puts his mind to. And, you know, I think that's important.
I think that's important as well. But Corey, we need your uncle to call Sharifa. Ask Sharifa. We got some companies that we need to take public, some funds, some investment that we're going to get right about now. I'll wait for that phone call. But in the meantime, we are coming down to the last few minutes of the show. And what I love to do at the end of every show is just simply allow my guests the opportunity to speak directly to the audience, to everyone who is watching this show live, as well as everyone who is watching it in the archives, and simply let them know what you want them to take away from your appearance here today. And we're going to start with you, Elva.
That whatever it is that you have in mind that you want to do it. Somebody said earlier, you know, there's going to be setbacks. I believe you should have patience. You need a lot of patience and perseverance. That helped me a lot in doing the research for my book on my father. And just, you know, try not to get discouraged when things don't happen when you think they're supposed to happen. You know, just if you find something you like to do and you want to do it, just go with it, and you know, you'll be successful. That's what I found.
Just go with it. Just do it. You will be successful. Thank you, Elva, for that. Jimmy, what do you have for us?
I mean, I think I've taken more away from this roundtable than given. I mean, it's been quite the experience. I enjoyed everybody's conversation, everybody's story, and I think we could have sat here for another 2 hours and kept talking. And you've been a wonderful facilitator and interviewer on this. So, for me personally, taking away that, you know, there's diversity in generations, and there's ways that, you know, you have to be able to bridge those generational gaps. And there's different, whether it's technology. You can never replace the human connection, as Tidru said earlier, and as well as Corey as well, that needs to remain. So whether you're using technology in your personal life, your social life, whether it's social media, in fitness, I think you still need that human connection in what you're doing. So that's all I can, hopefully somebody can take away from that.
Yes, we always need that human connection. Thank you. Corey.
Yeah, first and foremost, thank you so much for having me on here and having me and my best friend and co-founder of One on One Life, Tidru, on here. It's been a pleasure. As Jimmy mentioned, I learned a lot myself. Elva, I look forward to your book. I think you will knock it out if you are able to close that gap to really tell that story. You know, similar to how if you watch Ray with Jamie Foxx, you know, I didn't know a lot about, you know, Ray and what he was doing as a musician, but seeing him play that out really helped me. And obviously, I'm not saying go get Jamie Foxx, but just who can really tell that story to, you know, to our generation and close that gap for us, I think will be amazing for you. Jimmy, I'm excited to see what you do with your software and what you do with building that out. I think that's going to be super awesome for businesses and all that good stuff. And yeah, as I mentioned earlier, if you're an entrepreneur and you're looking to do something, understand that there are going to be tough times. Even if you kill it in the very beginning, do not get complacent. Continuously work on your craft, work on learning, try to learn something new as often as you can. Surround yourself with the right people. Listen. Don't do, the best people, the best leaders are the ones who also listen to your team, empower your team, never think you're better than anyone else. Stay humble, stay focused, continue to be comfortable being uncomfortable, and just continue to move forward and enjoy the wins, enjoy life, and take care of yourself. Self-care is important. And I promise you, if you continuously focus on yourself and focus on your body, your spiritually, physically, mentally, everything else will play out a lot better.
Everything else will fall in line. Yes. Thank you, Corey. T. Drew.
Yeah. Sharifa, thank you for having us on. It's been amazing. I learned something from everybody. Organization Maven. I love your at name. That's an amazing name. Number one. Number two, I didn't even know Nextdoor existed as a platform, and that's amazing. Like I live and do way too much on social media, and I didn't even know that existed. That's incredible. Elva, I'm very, very excited about your book. I'll keep tabs on it to just see what you do with it creatively. Feel free to reach out to me. I'm open and, willing to just brainstorm and help you in any way that I can, because I feel like you're telling an amazing story that not only is important to African-American youth, but youth and music in general. And I'm very passionate about music. I love music. Jimmy, you remind me of like my smooth uncle or something, man. It's like really cool meeting you and talking to you, man. I think you're doing an incredible thing. I love to stay in touch, and entrepreneurs or anybody that's watching this, Corey pretty much summed it up in all of our philosophies that, we kind of think about just leading our company and stuff like that. But I think it's just a few more quick things I would add. I think that, you can't really ever do it alone. It doesn't really matter how smart you are, how talented you may be, your connections or whoever you have on your team. You really can't go at it alone. And it's really important as an entrepreneur to have self-awareness and to really figure out what you're good at, what you're not good at. And I would say double down on what you're good at and try to find that person and that support system that can give you the things and the tools to allow you to rise. I feel like I'm lucky enough to have that, my business partner. And then adapt. 2020 is crazy. There's so many businesses that we never thought would close that are closed. And there's businesses like Zoom that went from a thing to a multi-billion-dollar valuation. So adapt, learn, overcome. Don't ever get stuck in the mud. Don't ever become a Blockbuster. Figure out how to become a Netflix. Like adapt. And one of my favorite quotes just for business owners, I don't think it's said enough, is actually from Jay-Z. And he said that the most brilliant thing we ever did was never quit. So,
yeah.
if you don't quit, then at some point you're going to reach the finish line. So,
Yes. Thank you, Thomas. Allison, go ahead and take us out.
So I just want to thank you and all of our guests today that, allowed me to be on the show. And I love organizing. Some things have happened, and it looks like I'll be visiting some other states. So I'm not just California anymore. There's just been some things working on in the background that I can't talk about yet. But so I'm just excited to just continue coming back on Monday mornings and sharing what's happening in the organizing world. And so have a great week, everyone.
Thank you, Allison. I want to thank you all for being a guest on today's episode of the Roundtable Talk Show. I enjoyed meeting all of you. Please feel free to come back. I've had guests who've been on the show 8, 9, 10 times. Allison Alma's here every Monday. Jade Elizabeth's here every other Friday. I have guests who have booked once a month clear through October of 2021. So if you want to come back, please go to the website at ashsharifa.com and return, because I love to have you. I also want to thank everyone who tuned in to watch the show live, as well as everyone who is watching the show in the archives. Just because you didn't catch the live show doesn't mean you are not important. You are still important. We still appreciate your support. Please go ahead and share the show. And thank you for watching the show. Thank you for sharing the show. But please don't just watch and share. Support our guests. Their website information is in the Facebook post. Please contact them, visit them, support them, send them a message. And when you send them that message, please let them know Sharifa Hardy says hi. Now, if you're interested in more ways I can help your business, or maybe you want to pick up your tickets to October 9th and 10th, the Power by Purpose 2-day empowerment teleconference, or maybe you want to be a guest on the Roundtable Talk Show, please visit the website at ashsharifa.com. Until tomorrow morning, everyone have a safe and a blessed day.
Thank
Bye
you.
now.